And sometimes finding that organization that's just simply amazing, that really values you, that really thinks amazing about you, is a diamond in the rough. It definitely is finding a needle in a haystack. This isn't an easy task. Hey y'all, this is Tamika, the face behind HR, and we are going to talk about a topic that really is not fun at all, but definitely one that you always should think about, should really focus on, because it makes such a big difference in your career, in your job, and choosing a job offer. And so today we're going to talk about handling difficult leaders. So if you are interested in knowing how the hell do I handle these difficult leaders who are just all over the place, really got me in my emotions, each day I come with one thing, I get another, and it makes me think horrible about this place. It makes me want to quiet quit. It makes me want to find another job immediately. It makes me want to rethink my career choice. It makes me feel so uncomfortable. If you want to know all about that type of stuff, listen, you won't keep on watching. So y'all, today was voting day. So obviously I'm recording this on election day. That is one thing that made me say, okay, I'm gonna just a little relaxed and keep my sticker on. Because that was one time where I felt like I was working with difficult co-workers. During that time, which obviously was several years ago when President Obama was first being considered a president, we were voting him in for his first term. I went into work not only with the I voted sticker, but I went into work with President Obama's t-shirt under my scrubs. At the time, I wasn't working in human resources, so let me be clear. I would never do that working in human resources. But prior to me becoming a human resources professional, I was in nursing school, I was working in a nursing unit. I had President Obama everywhere. I had buttons, I had stickers, I had earrings, I had a t-shirt that was like clearly you can kind of see it under my scrubs. I just was very, very proud of us finally having a black president. And that made for a very uncomfortable night at work for me. It was sad to see that it was uncomfortable because it was people I had already worked with them for a while. I had already been comfortable with them. I had worked with them long enough to like consider some of them friends. And I literally had out of a whole unit of people, 2 or 3 people that came to me and was like, listen, you good. Like it became a moment where people didn't even want to sit in the break room with me. People didn't talk to me for days after that, particularly because he won. It was just uncomfortable. Now in human resources, I would never do that. Yeah, I may wear I voted sticker, or I may leave the office and say, hey, I'm going to leave to go vote. But I wouldn't say what I'm voting for, who I'm supporting. I will tell you that the first thing you want to do whenever you're working with a difficult leader is before you start working with them, identify them. Don't get into this organization thinking that everyone is going to be good. Some people aren't doing a good job being a leader because they've never been trained how to lead. They have no clue what they're doing. Some people get power stricken and they're just so excited that,
oh yeah, I'm the leader, I'm the manager, you got to report to me.
That they don't realize how they're coming off. Some people forget to think of themselves as their employee instead of just thinking about being that leader. And so the best thing for you to do is just make sure that you identify this head on. Some of the things that you could do is just research the people who are interviewing you. Go to their LinkedIn profile. It's okay, you're the candidate, so go to their Facebook if you can find their Facebook. Find whatever you can find about them, but also want to look at that on a delicate level because you want to make sure that you're not putting in assumptions that you wouldn't want them to put in on you. Definitely look at the glass door for that company. Some employees will leave an employer or a supervisor's name. So you want to do some research. You want to make sure that if you knew anyone that previously worked there, or you know somebody that knew somebody that worked there, like get an opinion from them. Get a reference check on them. Don't just wait on them to get a reference check on you. Like you get one on them and make sure that this person knows how to lead a team and that they're comfortable in this space. Another thing that you can do is ask questions about their culture and their managerial style. Like make sure it's a managerial style you're comfortable with. Get examples from them of what they mean about that managerial style, and make sure that you help yourself find someone that aligns with your principles, your goals, your idea of leadership before you even accept the job. Now let's say you're already in this job. You already working there, honey. It's too late, Tamika. I can't be researching them. I already know them. So if that's the case, then you want to start keeping a record. Like you can keep a very small notebook. This is my notebook that I normally do like my outlines on. You can do one even smaller. I have smaller notebooks that I use. One that you can just toss into your purse, toss to your back pocket. One that you're going to keep at home. And just start making a record of those instances where things didn't go as well. So as you make a record of those, you definitely want to put in a date. You don't want it too detailed. You want something you can just glance at real quick and say, yep, I remember on that day that happened. It's okay to put in how you felt, who was affected, who was around at the time. Put in details that you think can help you literally remember that. because there are times that I've written things down that I want to reference later and I completely forgot. Like, why was this an issue for me? When you're keeping that record, you're not keeping that record so you can throw it back in their face and be like, listen,
on such and such date you did this, and on such and such date you did that.
No. At the end of the day, you want to look at that. Is there a trend? Did you notice that they had a more difficult time during open enrollment or right before open enrollment? Was it a certain process that they consistently like got on your butt about? What trends are you constantly seeing there? Now, if you're finding like a general consensus, like every time we get ready for open enrollment or every time we get ready for new hire onboarding, this leader makes me feel uncomfortable, then it's okay to address those concerns in a generalized way in your department meeting. If you feel like you're not the only person that's being affected, then don't feel like you need to make it about one-on-one. You probably could be helping your teammates. If it's open enrollment, right? Let's say you guys are planning the benefits fair at the beginning of open enrollment, or you guys are planning who's going to send out these emails, who's going to keep track of the responses, who's going to keep track of who's put in their information and have done their open enrollment. Then one thing you can say in your team meeting is, hey, who's going to keep track of this going forward? Because every year we have an issue with such and such, not a person's name, but a situation. But you can say every year we have an issue with who's keeping track of this, or we have an issue with who's supposed to bring what for the benefits fair. And I just want to make sure we avoid it because it makes it a very uncomfortable work environment. You can help bring these issues to your director's light because they might realize they were the problem. Now, if you look at all of these things and it's not a generalized thing, then you definitely want to schedule an individual meeting with them. You can send an email and say, hey, I know your schedule's pretty busy, but I definitely wanted to touch bases with you on something. I say send an email because it helps you keep track of it. It's like a paper trail for both of you. It's okay to say it in person because that definitely is what my first choice would be. If you have a good relationship with that person, you don't want to damage it by paper trail and everything. But you can definitely say, okay, I'm going to start sending an email to make sure I keep track of when I ask for this meeting, just in case this person doesn't create it. And then ask them, do you want me to create this meeting on our calendars, or do you want to just take care of it yourself? I only need 15 minutes, or I only need 30 minutes, or what have you. So you can prep them on what it is that you're talking about, or you cannot. You don't have to. But you definitely want to schedule a meeting to make sure that you sit down and kind of address those issues. I wouldn't say take your notebook into that meeting. Don't do it. Just go in there and like already review your notes so that you know some talking points that you're going to talk to. I know in my personal situation, my leader at the time knew that I always had a notebook with me, so that was no big deal for me to bring a notebook in. If you're not a person that always has a notebook with you, then you probably want to just like put it on your phone, glance at your phone, or look through that list and make sure that you have an idea of your talking points prior to that meeting. Now, if it's not a generalized issue, if it's not an issue you feel was resolved in that one-on-one meeting, then you probably want to escalate it to your supervisor, whoever supervising that person. Like, go up the chain of command and schedule a meeting. I wouldn't go through and put in a whole long list of what all is wrong in this email. I would address it the same way. Send an email, hey, I'd like to meet with you. I want to talk to you for about 15 minutes. I hope you have a few seconds for me. I can guarantee you that your supervisor going to prep that person on what you're talking about. So go in there prepared, make sure you know exactly what you're talking about. Make sure that you're looking at it from both sides, your side and that person's side. Now, if you notice that it's like a continuous issue, it's not something that just happened one time, it's not something that was resolved by this one meeting, it's something that just keep on happening. It's a bunch of different things that keep on. And now it used to be just one thing. Now it kept going into an anthill, now it's a mountain. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's getting out of control, then what you probably want to do is try to work on effective communication with that person. I would schedule a consistent meeting. We're going to meet every week. We're going to meet every other week. We're going to meet monthly. Because a lot of times when there's a lack of communication, people start thinking in their head, people start making assumptions, people start having feelings. Too many things start getting involved because you're just not communicating on a regular, so that you can either learn each other, so that you can understand each other, so that you can progress with each other, so you can make changes with each other. Now, what you want to do in these meetings is you want to make sure to address issues. You want to let them know what has you feeling frustrated, what are pain points for you guys, what has you feeling offended. You don't have to make it a I meeting, but just say, hey, listen, I really want to perform at my best. I'm trying really hard. I keep feeling this way. I need clarity on this, and this, or I need you to let me know if my feelings are justified. So now, sometimes we being affected by a leader who's not our leader. If somebody has you feeling like it's a toxic work environment with upper management and it's not the person that reports to you, have that conversation with your leader. Make sure that you have that communication with your leader where your leader knows what's going on. They can help defend you. If they're not defending you, then they're aware, so that they're not making you work with this person on a consistent basis, so that they can address this person. But if it's not your leader, definitely have a conversation with your leader. If your leader doesn't manage it, then escalate it as well. I know in many situations it's not just my leader who's who sucks, right? So if it's other leaders, but they impact your work in some type of way, address it. Please don't sit there and start thinking in your head, talking with your coworker, venting at home, letting it fester. Like, address the issue, y'all. Before I get into the very last point or the very last example or overall subject, objective, I'm going to tell you guys about a situation where I had a very toxic leader. And y'all, let me be clear. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm a chocolate girl who's comfortable in her skin. I've had a lot of uncomfortable leaders. I've had a lot of toxic leaders. I've had a lot of leaders who I'm like, girl, please, if you like burning with gasoline, I'm going to sit there and I'm not even going to spit on you. You know what I'm saying? That's a little extreme. And so I'll give you guys an example of 3 situations that I had while working in human resources that were difficult for me. And I'll tell you how I handled those. The first one that I had was I worked somewhere where I came in as a generalist. The CEO was promising me that I'd be the manager. She changed her mind, decided, okay, I'm gonna make you the assistant manager. We're gonna hire in another manager that she felt was more experienced than me. Totally worked for me. I didn't really care. I was fine with my paycheck, was fine with my workload. Wasn't excited about continuously leading this team. So it worked out. She brought in a leader that immediately felt offended because all of the employees, all of the leaders, they like me. Like, I wish I was exaggerating, but the folks like me. I like the folks. I listened to them. I made resolutions for them. Over time, I've earned their trust, and she did not like that. We had a company meeting where all of our employees were all across the United States. The people who worked in the office were obviously in Charleston. We flew everyone in for this 3-day meeting or what have you, and the first gathering or like event that we had was going to be a boat ride and make that like a happy hour relaxed time before we dived into the hard work the next day. And she had said to me, I see everyone's looking for you. Everyone was looking for me. They had already talked to me over the phone. I onboarded them. I had been their point of contact. And everybody around the office was like, I want to meet Tamika. Where's Tamika? Where's Tamika? I finally sat down and I was like, okay, I need to get things done for tomorrow. And she was like, yeah, and just be prepared for tonight because they're probably going to throw HR off the board. Throw HR off board. I'm thinking in my head, why the hell are they going to throw me off board? And she was like, I see you're confused, but just so you know, I mean, like, no one ever likes HR. So you might want to hold on to me in the middle of the boat. Sis, if that's the kind of lifestyle you live in, I won't be nowhere near you. So that was an uncomfortable one. We were sharing an office. She ended up taking me out of that office, constantly making meetings to say that Tamika did this wrong, Tamika did that wrong. Not just meetings with me and her. It would be the CEO, the partners of the company, like a whole round table. It was meetings initially I was aware of, and it started becoming meetings I wasn't aware of. I walked in off the elevator one day and just got thrown into a meeting. Now, before I tell you what my resolution was to that, I'll tell you how I try to manage that initially. And one way that I try to manage that, I kept trying to ask her, what's wrong? What's going on? And she was very, very dismissive, where she was like, oh, there's nothing. All is well. There were obviously conversations happening. Like I would walk in the office and she'd have other team members in the office. And then all of a sudden the office goes quiet when I come in. There were just things over time that I knew she's used to coming in and firing folks. She literally told me that herself, that I just come in and I just get rid of the folks who doesn't want to play the reindeer games with us. Literally her terms. She said, and then life is good. I'm not that person. I want to manage you first. I want to have some difficult conversations. I want to see if we can fix this. And then I want to get you prepared that termination probably gonna be your next thing. She wanted me to help her with a lot of terminations. I wasn't doing it. Like, listen, let's talk to these people. If you only got one problem wrong with them and all of a sudden you got this problem, you just been here a month, like, let's fix it. But she didn't like that. And my fix to that was, okay, Mika, clear out your office and find a new job. It's just that simple for me. I had already worked my butt off for that company. I felt like that was a second notch on the belt where I was like, they don't appreciate me. I had tried to address that issue with her several times. I tried talking to my partners about it. I tried talking to our VP, who she reported to, who I previously reported to before her. Everyone just kept saying, you know, talk about it. You guys are great together. You guys are a dynamic team. And we did great work together, but it was not work that was comfortable. I decided that just wasn't the place for me. And I said to myself, I'm going to write this 2-week notice. I literally wrote it. I went into the office like 2 days later, got out of the elevator straight into another unexpected meeting, and I quit on the spot. It's not an easy thing to explain in interviews, but I know that putting myself as a priority was important for me. And so I'm prepared to explain that conversation in any environment to elevate my career. But I also did other things. I built my network. I already had tons of letters of references. I got even more. I started figuring out, how do I manage this conversation without it looking like it's just my leader who's a bad person? Because obviously when you interview other places, they don't know if it's you. But that was just my choice. In some cases, you have to make a choice. Is this even worth the fight? Another situation that I had, I walked right into this organization, and this leader was just, She was a micromanager. If you guys aren't familiar with this situation, then I definitely talked about it in my most recent video, or one of my recent videos, where I had a story time about quiet quitting. So you can definitely check it out here. And I will definitely put it on the end, so you can check it out there, or definitely in the description box. But even with that leader, it was difficult. I had a few conversations. I ain't gonna tell y'all no lie. I was embarrassed. She made me lose it one time that I literally lashed out on this lady. I did. I asked her initially, can I be excused? I need to use the restroom. When I was done at the restroom, I went to my office just to gather myself, like just to get my mind right. She came to my office and said to me, you need to be in my office now. I don't expect to get talked down like a child. I would rather her have said, hey, is everything okay? It wasn't until we had another time when I said to her, I don't want to do what I did the last time. I went off on her. I was like, you're driving me crazy. Doesn't make sense to me. I've been doing HR long enough. Like, I went off. I wasn't proud of that. I spoke with my CEO about it. He was transparent enough to me to say, hey, Tamika, if that was me, I'd have fired you. And that made me act right, because I really liked the organization. I like our mission. I like what we were doing. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. So I decided there are going to be some things I'm just going to have to deal with. I went and tried to talk to another leader that I felt comfortable with to say, how do I manage this? So that's something you can also do. That manager, in my opinion, didn't give me good advice. She said to me, literally, Tamika, I know you've heard of the saying before, but shit flows downwards. And she was like, you just got to be ready to take all the shit. That wasn't comfortable for me. So happy I left that organization. It was just annoying that people wanted me to not be comfortable in the workplace. I was like, where can I go where I can just come in and do HR and go home? I spoke with that leader. I spoke with a couple other leaders. I spoke with, my CEO. I spoke with coworkers. I spoke with people I trusted, and I didn't speak with everyone. It sounds like I talked to a lot of people. I did not. And kept figuring out how to manage it. And one thing that I did to help manage that was it was like, okay, I ain't working late, I ain't staying extra, I ain't coming in early, because I wasn't quite quitting at that time. I felt like that would just minimize my exposure to her. That was my whole mentality. She used to have a day every Wednesday where she worked from home. It was every Wednesday I would end up with 150 emails. It was nothing for her to send me like 30 of them within 10 minutes. And it was all the things she just didn't want to do. Or reply to this salesperson, or check this voicemail. It was like I was her admin. I was a generalist. I still had other work she expected me to get done. That was uncomfortable. And so we had a conversation. We had several conversations. Luckily in that case, my CEO knew I wasn't the issue. My position was a revolving position where she constantly every year had a new person, if not more frequently. And so he decided to terminate her. So in that situation, it really made me say, okay, now that she's gone, you have to show that you were not the problem. And so that's what I did. So that's how that situation was managed. But in my most recent situation, which I couldn't say my most recent, because honestly, I haven't had an issue with the leader in years now. And I'm so thankful for that. But my last organization, where I had been there for quite some time, when they fired that previous leader who was a crocker, you know what, then they brought in another leader who just didn't know her job. It wasn't like a toxic environment where she was rude, condescending, talked down to me. She was just like intimidated by me, and it made it uncomfortable for me, because I was like, do I look like a bad bully like everybody else talking to me? What's the problem? So it made me feel like I was like this hostile person to her, and I was like, I'm not. And so I did everything that I told you guys early in this video I did with her, and that was just my plan to manage that until I find some place that worked for me. People can say, hey, Tamika, you run away from every problem. But I had already spent 4 years of my life at that organization, going into 2 years with her. That's 2 years of my life. I don't feel like it's fair that I have to give away 5-10 years of being miserable just for the sake of what somebody else might think on my resume. Listen, I need to stay sane. And at the end of the day, I don't want to be like previous generations where you work at somewhere for 20-30 years. That place is rude to you. It makes you uncomfortable. It's a hostile work environment. You're constantly being harassed. You hate working there. And then 20 years down the road, you turn into this mean person that you never would have been before. And that's just not my goal. And my goal is to stay away from it. My goal is to say, let me find an organization that matches me. That's what I do. So happy I did that. So let me dive into the last tip. Y'all see I got a notebook back again. So my last tips are like, don't forget moments. Because getting in these hostile work environments, there are little things that we just seem to forget. And I want to be a reminder to you to not forget these things. Don't take these things personal, honey. Don't take it personal. Like, remember that hurt people hurt people. Most times those hostile leaders are rude to you, uncomfortable for you, give you a hostile work environment because they've been hurt. hurt people. They have not healed from that. They have not fixed it. They have not managed it. And now they're giving out what they feel inside. It's no different than happy people love being happy to other people. Sometimes what people are doing to you is a byproduct of things they have not managed themselves. That it's not always you. It doesn't mean you didn't know how to do your job. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. It doesn't mean that there's no other place you can go to. So many people stay married to these companies, and these companies treat you toxic. Like, it's okay to cut the strings and be like, I'm out. It's okay. That was my other tip. Don't be afraid to leave. And then my last tip was, don't give one company or one leader all your energy. Don't let them make you treat others bad. Don't kill the excitement of your career because of that one situation. So many times we think, I'm gonna get out of HR because I'm so tired of this stuff. HR ain't HR everywhere. Everyone is not living miserable just because you work in HR. Y'all, this is the very reason that I created this channel, is because I want you guys to know that you can authentically be yourself. Like Sister Girl got her hoops on. If I had worked today, it's election day, so I didn't. But if I had worked today, I would have gladly worked in my hoops. I would have gladly wear my braids, which I'm going to continuously gladly wear. Be yourself, because not every company is going to be one that needs you to wear the Beyonce hair and need you to talk proper all the time and you can't use any of your slang. Every company just isn't that way. And so don't let that one experience, that one company dampers your life, your expectations for your career, your success for yourself. They just aren't worth it. Cut it off if you have to. It just ain't that serious, honey. Come and do your work and go home. You don't have to go to the company happy hour. You don't have to go to the Christmas party. Like, you just don't. I personally think it's nice when HR is there. So try to fix the issues, because in my opinion, HR knows the entire organization. When I go to company-wide meetings, that's my time to make sure so-and-so knows so-and-so. Y'all work together all the time. Some people, that's their first time seeing each other at a Christmas party. Never met before. Only talked on the phone or sent emails. I feel like HR is there to help bring that culture positively. So if you're not going to those events, which I've ran into quite a few leaders who doesn't go to company-wide events, it always throws me off, because I'm like, what is wrong with you? You're supposed to be the person there that's bringing everybody together. So if you're finding yourself in a company that you don't feel comfortable going to, like, company-wide events or being the face of HR for that company, then that ain't the company for you, sis. It ain't. Y'all be taking me down a rabbit hole, honey. I hope that this video was helpful for y'all. As you can see, it takes me through all kind of emotions, because I have been through so much in my career. I have been beaten down emotionally, mentally, indirectly, passive aggression, so much in my career. For sure, my first 3-4 years of my career was amazing. Now the last year has been epic. Loved it. In between, honey, it's been some up and down roads. But I don't think that I would be able to have made HR to be able to help you if I wasn't able to bring it off from personal experience. I don't want to sit down and research what to tell you. I want to be able to tell you from my experience. I want to educate you in a way that relates to you. I want to help you. This isn't an easy task. Being a YouTuber, creating a website, offering services, creating products, thinking of new and innovative ways to help you make it through your career is not easy when my heart lies in being a full-time HR employee. That's what I want to do. This all comes from true experience. Follow it to a T. It will help save you. And sometimes finding that organization that's just simply amazing, that really values you, that really thinks amazing about you, is a diamond in the rough. It is finding a needle in a haystack. Sometimes you can change an entire organization. It takes so much for you to do that. It takes a lot of you. It's not unachievable. It's just a lot. So is this company worth you giving that much? Do you have a leadership that you can help transform to help support you through these changes to make this a better place to work? If it's not, then figure out what works best for you. Sometimes that means just leaving that organization. That just might not be the place for you. For those of you who are finding my video for the very first time, I truly hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you consider subscribing. For those of you who are returning, honey, just keep on telling me what you want me to do. I'll keep producing it for you, because this video definitely came as a suggestion, and so I'm going to put that suggested video or comment somewhere in here. But to every single one of you, I can't wait to see y'all on the next video.